20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
1, 32. We're now at number 3. Now at number 4 coming up. Stop. Number 4. Alright, now we're going to start talking and just see what happens for a few minutes. We started at number 3. Starting at number 3 now.
All right, fast for me.
Alright, well now what we're going to talk about, I reckon, is just old times. Let's go back just a little bit. Let us go back in time. Here we're recording. John Edwards came from Cornwall. Your mother died when? Patience Elizabeth died when? 1950 something. 54.
54.
We've arrived at that, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've arrived at that. Just hold that. Okay. Now we've got to make sure that we get this recorded every now and again just to check it back, because we started at about 6, right? Okay, fine. Well now, let's talk about Rottnest when you used to go down there with the Connollys. Because, what was his name?
Sir James.
Sir James Connolly was what?
My uncle.
Why was he your uncle?
Because
Who was
he
he
married
married
my mother's sister.
Who was your mother's sister? What was your mother's sister?
What was her
Sis
Sis, I know, but what was her real name?
Edwards.
Edwards. She was an Edwards.
She was my mother's sister.
Yeah, rightio. And what was her Christian name?
Auntie Sis.
But her name couldn't be Sis.
Charlotte
Charlotte was your mother's sister.
was my mother's sister.
And James Connolly married her.
Her.
And, rightio, what do you remember? Well, you wouldn't remember when that was. Was she younger than your mother?
Yes. She
How
was
many years?
She was the second. There were 3 sisters, and Mum was the eldest.
So there was,
And then
yeah.
Charlotte and then Grace, who died when she was 17.
Yeah. She was 17, what'd she die of?
I've no idea.
Grace, born 17th May 1874 St Arnaud's, died aged 17 of enteric fever.
Enteric fever.
Died at St Arnaud's.
That's right.
Rightio.
Before they came to Perth.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah, right. Well now, your father came to Perth, he wrote his letters, he must have been here in 1897 or something.
Yes, that's right.
Rightio. Well now, when did the Connollys come to Perth? When did...
Well, Auntie met Uncle in Kalgoorlie.
How was
He
that?
was a contractor. He was a building contractor.
Yeah, Connolly was.
Connolly was
Yeah.
originally
Yeah.
as a youth.
Rightio.
And he built a hotel in Kalgoorlie.
Which one?
I've forgotten the name of the hotel.
Yeah.
And
Well, where did he come from? Was he
I don't know
an
where he
Englishman or
came.
an Irishman?
No, he came from Queensland.
Did he?
He was a Queenslander.
Yeah. And he built a hotel in Kalgoorlie, rightio. So he met Auntie Sis.
Yeah, who
He met
lived in
Sis in Kalgoorlie.
Coolgardie with my mother. and
Because they'd
father.
moved there. That's right.
Yeah. And he met.
He met rightio. Well, hang on. How long did your father and mother live in Coolgardie?
I don't know how many years.
Because they didn't move there till about 1898, 1899. They
no,
had Grace, because Grace was still back in Victoria.
Had Grace
And
and
Finn.
in Victoria, didn't
Yes, they
they?
had Grace and Finn in
And
Victoria.
all the other children were
Then
born in Perth.
Francie was born in Coolgardie, but
Yeah.
he died in Coolgardie. He was drowned.
Who was?
Francie,
Francie.
my brother.
Your brother. Righto. How old was he when he drowned?
9 months.
And he's buried
Mum-
in Coolgardie?
He's buried in Coolgardie.
That's right, because Bernard's been to see them.
And my father turned the water on in Coolgardie with the first water scheme.
Which came through from the Overton, from
See why I come?
C.Y.
I
O'Connor.
suppose. I don't know.
Well, it would have come through because it went through to Kalgoorlie.
Mm.
And he turned the water on.
He turned the water on. The inscription is still on the tap.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
I didn't know.
that's something we didn't know.
Today's Christine Allen's birthday. She turns 13. 29th of November 1981. should have dated this anyway, should
Yes, there we are. We haven't
we?
had
Just
that.
before, we just
Let it be so known.
Let it be so known, Your Honour, my lad.
So
Rightio.
Charlotte Edwards had two boyfriends, one in Coolgardie and one in Kalgoorlie,
Oh, yeah.
and she asked my father which one would she marry, and he suggested James Connolly. And she
Why?
married James Connolly.
Why did
I
she
don't
marry
know
him?
why.
Why did he suggest that?
He probably liked him better.
No, for God's
See,
sake.
she lived with my mother
Yeah.
for
And why is that?
years because she had no mother and father, and when they came to Western Australia, they brought her with them.
Hey, wait a minute, you said she's... You're talking about who?
Mum's
Charlotte Edwards Connolly.
Nana's
I thought-
sister. Nana's
Nana's-
sister.
She wasn't really a sister, you said.
She was my mother's sister.
What do you mean she lived with somebody?
She lived with Mum and my
Okay.
father.
Oh, I see, because she was the
She
sister.
came
right,
from
okay.
St Arnaud
Yeah.
when they shipped her
So
over
how old would
here.
she been when she got married?
Oh, I've no idea.
Don't know.
No.
Doesn't matter.
I think she's mentioned in Papa's letters.
Yeah, she must have. Yes, he is. He does mention sis several times. in
Wasn't he
letters.
looking for a good
Yeah.
Catholic husband for
You're
her?
right.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
That's right, he
And
was.
that's
too.
because he was a Catholic, I suppose. We
Yeah.
chose him.
That's right. Okay,
Fair enough.
could be right. And where were they married? You know?
Well, I presume in Coolgardie or Kalgoorlie. I've no idea.
Yeah. Now, when did your father come down to Perth?
Look, I don't know what year.
What year were you married? You were married. What
I-
year were you born? You were born
I
in
was born in
1902.
1902.
So
in
he was
Cottesloe.
okay. So he must have been out there 3 or 4 years because he was
Oh,
only got
yeah.
there about 1897.
1902, that's right.
Oh,
So
wait,
he was
wait
only-
on, is Clem, who's old?
Oh, where was Clem born?
Vin was 83 when he died.
Where was Clem born though?
Clem was born in Cottesloe. The three C's, Clem and Connie and Chris.
Yeah, and
All
who's
born
the
in
eldest
Cottesloe,
of the
3
three
C's.
Mm.
Who's the eldest?
Clem.
Clem,
Clem.
Connie and Chris.
Oh, so Clem was probably born, what, 1900?
Yes.
So they must have moved down to
Yeah, he must have been
Yeah.
only in Coolgardie for a couple of years.
A couple of years.
And when he came down, what did he do for a living? But he came back with...
managed British General Electric.
Yeah, and then he converted over to another place, didn't he? He went...
No, he came over for Benny Tears
Right.
originally
Yeah,
and went to Coolgardie.
with Benny
He
Tears.
came to Perth first. Then Benny Tears thought they'd build in Coolgardie.
Yeah.
And Papa had to do the plans and everything of that. Didn't you
Yeah.
read that in a
Yeah,
letter? Where he
no,
was
I didn't.
disappointed
No.
that he had to do the plans and all the organising of building in Coolgardie. Then they went to Coolgardie.
Yeah. He planned all in and then he went to Coolgardie. So he
Yeah.
only spent 2 years
2
up there.
years.
Right, yeah. We think about about 2 years. Then he came back. Then he was manager of...
The British General Electric, which is now the council chambers in Perth,
which is now council chambers in Murray Street.
in Murray Street, just near Bones.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're not...
You know, the council chambers. It's on the corner of Strelitz Avenue and Murray Street. You know
Strelitz Avenue
Strelitz
doesn't exist
Avenue?
now.
No, well, that's where it was then. I don't know whether Strelitz Avenue is still there. You used to walk up that. It was not an arcade. It was just more or less a lane, a road through, just a little narrow road to Hay Street.
What, near Musgrave?
Musgraves. I don't know where Musgraves is.
Yeah, Mervyn used to work.
He was in Nicholson.
Nicholson's.
That
Not
was
as far as
Barrack
Place.
Street.
No, they're in...
Oh, Musgraves were in Murray Street,
Yeah.
yes. It was at Musgraves.
Well, where is Streslecki Arcade in relation to that?
Almost opposite Forest Place.
Right, that's where Nicholson's were.
Nicholson's were in Barrack
Hey.
Street.
No, yeah.
Musgraves
Musgraves
were
were
in
right.
Murray.
Musgraves, okay. Right, yeah. So, then, didn't he become part of a engineering firm?
No.
Not British General Electric?
No, he worked for British General Electric till he died.
Did he? And where did he die?
He died at St John of God's Hospital, Subiaco,
What of?
TB.
Hmm? And you were still living in Subiaco Road?
We were living in Subiaco.
And how old was he?
We'd shipped at 44.
Very good.
We'd shipped it from Cottesloe. He built in Subiaco Road. which cost £750, in case you don't know.
Subiaco Road.
Subiaco, £750.
Yeah, that's a lot of money then.
And how many houses were in the street at the time?
Oh,
Can you remember?
I think they were nearly all there.
Right.
Yeah.
Was the railway there?
Oh, heavens, yes, I used to go and watch all the soldiers going to the war.
To the First
And
World
coming
War?
home to the war. Yeah.
Did you?
We used to go down the railway line and wait for them.
Yeah, just stop. Hold on a second.
That's true.
All right, we're now talking about we're at number 47, and we're talking about the First World War. We used to see the troops coming backwards and forwards. What do you remember about that? About the troops going backwards and
Oh, I
forwards?
can
First World
remember
War.
Armistice night when peace was signed. We all walked from home to Perth.
And Subiaco down there.
Yeah, down
How were the
Hay,
crowds?
down Hay Street, packed
Yeah.
with people.
And what was everybody doing?
Oh, we're all dancing around Hay Street. And,
Yeah.
Yeah?
yeah.
Who went to war? Did Finn go to war?
No, he didn't because he only had one eye.
Finn did.
Only had one eye.
How did he lose his eye?
Because he had an ulcer on his eye when he was a baby and he lost the sight of it.
Oh.
Heavens above.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah. And people used to put white feathers in their letterbox because he never went to the war.
Yeah, that was the sign of being a
Oh,
coward.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, heavens above.
Well, did anyone else in the family go to the war?
No, they weren't old enough.
Oh, no, the others
No.
were all younger.
14, 18
Yeah.
war. Of course, they would have been 12 or 13 years of age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was 11, I think, when the war finished. I don't know.
No, you couldn't have been.
1918
1918 to finish, you would have been 16.
18. No, yes, that's right.
1902?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were born.
18. Yes, I was going on 16, that's right, September.
September. And do you remember much about the war?
Oh, yes, I can remember the trains going past all whistling like mad and we'd go out, wave flags.
Did you? Did you go down to the wharf at all and see them off?
No,
Did you?
no.
Did you have any food rationing?
No, I don't think so in the First War.
Why
But
didn't-
in the Second World War we did.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Why didn't you go? Why didn't your father go to the war?
Because he had TB. Had TB for
At that age?
23 years.
Did he really?
Had TB. There was no cure for
23
TB.
years.
Yeah. And he used to have to get a taxi every day into work.
They had taxis in those days.
Taxis. Cato's garage up in Hay Street near Collins Street had a garage and they called for him every morning.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
Because he
It
wasn't,
was
he
an
wasn't,
order.
he wasn't
So-
strong enough to go
No, he
by
wasn't
bus.
strong enough, and yet he worked all those years.
Yeah.
you know.
So did he run British General Electric
Yes, he ran
over here
British General
for
Electric.
23 years?
Oh, for I don't know
He
how
started.
long.
He started because he came from Victoria.
1902 until he died. And he died in 1944. What year did he die?
40 something. Father. Papa died in January 1915.
1915, that'd be right.
You were
You were
about,
11.
You were about
I was
13.
about 11. Well, was I? 11.
You must have been if you were born 02.
Yeah, you were 13.
You would have been, you would have majored 13.
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, you were 13 when he died. He wasn't alive when the...
War was on.
well, no, he was. He was alive, naturally, for 1 year, because the war started in 1914.
14.
Papa
Yes.
died January 1915, buried in Karrakata.
Yes.
So, yeah, so he was... But for 23
He
years...
was 44 when he died.
Yeah. Now, when he died, what did your mother do to support you?
You're not on
Well, there was
Yeah.
only...
You're on pause.
Vin was the only one working. My father took him into the British General Electric and he was working there.
Yeah.
And there was a chap named Cyril Peed that
Did
used
he?
to work there. And people would come in and say, where's Mr. Peed? And Vin would say, behind the counter.
Oh!
Naughty. Naughty. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Vin started there as a youth
He started there as an
at
office
British General
boy.
Electric.
And Grace was still at school at Iona,
Yeah.
which was presentation
She was the
convent.
first pupil at Iona.
She was the first pupil they ever had.
Hmm.
Yeah. I went there for a few years before we shifted.
Did you? And where
And
did
then
Bernie
Grace
go to
left
then?
school and she went to Edwards Business College and learned shorthand typing because my mother had 6 children, all at school, excepting Vin.
Yeah.
So she learned shorthand typing and then she got a job. So she had a struggle, I suppose. I
Yeah,
wouldn't know what
yeah.
her finance was in those
Yeah.
days, but we seemed to live very well.
Yeah.
We always had a servant.
Yeah,
Did you really?
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
Mm.
Did you have a vehicle?
No vehicles in those days.
Or did you have a horse and
We had a
buggy?
horse in Cottesloe when we first
Oh,
came.
you didn't have one in
No,
Subiaco?
oh no.
Was there more vacant land in Cottesloe to have a horse and cart?
Oh yes, the Stirling Highway wasn't properly built.
Wasn't it?
It was only a track, it was a road. But
Now we're talking about Stirling Highway. It wasn't
yes,
really
well,
made.
before we left Cottesloe to go to Subiaco, we had a horse and buggy,
Yeah.
which my brother, Vin, used to take Father O'Neill, who was the first priest in Cottesloe, down to Iona every morning at 7 o'clock to say Mass. And he was the altar boy. And then they'd go
Yes.
back to the Cottesloe church, which wasn't built then. It wasn't built for a couple of years
Well,
later.
where did you actually go to church? What was it, in a hall or a...
It was a hall. It's
On
a
the same
school-
site?
It's the school hall in Cottesloe now that
Is it?
was originally the church.
Yeah.
Then they built the church. And my father put in the first altar
Yeah.
that was there.
And where's that altar now?
That altar was taken out when they got to these other,
You...
what do you call them? Just a square thing. It was a beautiful altar
Yeah.
and was taken away.
How much did it cost to buy it?
I've no idea, but it was a beautiful altar, and then Grace was very upset when it was gone.
Yeah.
So she went down and saw the priest in Cottesloe to see what happened to it. And they'd put it in the Glendalough Old People's Home.
Have
So
they?
that was
Yeah.
great,
Yeah.
that it wasn't demolished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that it's still there.
And your father donated that?
He donated that.
So he must have donated that in 1914.
Yes,
or
and
something,
I had
but he
an
died in
escritoire with all the
You had a what?
inscription. An escritoire which somebody took.
15. What's that?
A writing desk, which they had presented to him, with an inscription on the top.
Saying what, that he
That
presented
he presented that to the
And
church
who gave
what
that
he'd
to
done.
him?
Who gave what to him?
that escritoire?
Father O'Neill.
Did he?
He was the first priest down there.
Right. That's disappeared. Okay, so you're in Cottesloe
Yeah.
and the road hasn't been built properly.
No, and my mother used to drive Mother Joseph, who was a little fat lady, very fat. She was only about 4'9",
Yeah.
and she was square. And Mum used to take the nuns for drives in the trap. And one day, Tommy, the horse, bolted.
Yeah?
Oh.
And Mum could have pulled it up, you see,
Yeah.
by pulling both reins. But Mother Joseph would pull one side, which made it go madder.
Oh.
So it really went mad
Yeah?
down the highway. Yes, no wonder they weren't killed.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she never told her to come for a drive again. Dear little Mother
Yeah.
Joseph.
And how big was the house in Cottesloe?
Oh, it was a very big house. We had lots of bedrooms, a veranda all round. It's still there.
Yeah.
What number?
Um,
What street, actually?
It's Napier Street.
Napier Street,
It's
what
called
number?
Atherstone,
Is that-
Napier Street. It's about 6 houses down from the highway.
Yeah.
It's still there.
And who were your neighbours?
Mrs. Seligson,
Right.
and she lived next door, and we had a tennis court in between us, and she had a well in her yard, and I used to go over there and play with my little hat on, and my little sun frocks, and I fell down the well.
Did you?
Oh, Mrs. Seligson nearly died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
How
did
did-
you, probably?
Yeah, probably I did.
Yeah.
And they got me out and I was all mud.
How old were you?
Oh, I was only about 3 or 4.
For God's sake.
Yeah. And she used to call me Connie girl. She was terribly upset about that.
And
Oh.
who...
She always had me over there.
Has she got any children?
Mrs. Seligson.
Yeah.
Well, she's
Seligson, wasn't
Zini. Remember Zini?
Zini, yes. I do.
Zini.
Yeah. Yeah.
Zini. She married a chap named Brown. I think she's mentally deficient, or else she's died.
Be careful, you're being recorded.
Oh, she's probably
you might
died.
be taking a call out of this. She's mentally deficient.
They
Not Mrs. Not the children needn't worry about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were all born at home. My mother never went to a hospital to have babies. We had a nurse came to the house. All born at home. Never went to hospital.
And you can remember when Berna was born?
Oh, heavens,
Yes.
yes, I can remember.
You
can remember the night?
I
the
slept.
day?
Oh, of course I can. My father had died, and Mum was pregnant.
Oh.
And I was sleeping with Mum in the double bed in her room, about 6 o'clock in the morning. Mrs. McQueen next door, this was in Subiaco after we'd shifted, Mrs. McQueen came in and she told me to go out into my own bed out in the back veranda. And an hour later she came out and she said, "You got a baby sister."
Oh, for heaven's
And what
sake.
year was that? 19, which is before your father died.
Berna.
Yeah.
Berna. She was a character, you know. She, oh, excuse
All right.
me.
It's okay, it doesn't matter. Bern will be
Yeah,
happy with
And if we went past her when she was feeding, she'd squirt the milk at us.
that.
Oh, would she?
She would.
Oh, yeah?
Disgusting.
Isn't that terrible? Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
she
shocking.
would.
In those days, that was,
Oh,
yeah.
you know, and she was a good cow.
Yeah,
She would, she'd squirt.
yeah.
It was terrible. And so I think my father had died before Berna was born,
Yeah.
because I can't remember him around.
Yeah.
But he never went to bed without his rosary beads and his prayer book beside him.
Good
Never,
heavens.
ever.
Yeah.
No.
And he went to mass every morning.
No, he didn't.
Vin used to go to
Oh,
mass.
Vin used it at Cottesloe, but that's latter years.
Huh?
He lost it. His rosary beads.
Oh, yeah, I just found that.
Never
lovely.
goes lost.
Yeah.
He would have to buy another lot, wouldn't he?
He
On the veranda.
slept out on the veranda. Each bedroom had a door onto the veranda. You know those doors that open
Yeah, French
outwards?
doors.
Yeah.
And you slept out there in the winter?
Well, it was all enclosed down
Oh.
one side.
Yeah.
But we
Like
had...
Subiaco Road.
Yeah.
Although that was only
that
checkers
was lovely.
wood stuff.
Only lattice,
Yeah.
wasn't
Lattice.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lattice,
Lattice.
with the
Blind?
cuphole and blinds,
Yeah.
you know, that you rolled down.
Yeah.
So where did you go to school, Iona?
I went to school at Iona,
And
Presentation Convent then.
So did Berna.
Berna boarded there for years. Grace boarded there for 8 years. 8 years, if you please.
Boarded.
And
When
then
You only-
Berna was such a naughty little girl that Mum sent her to New Norcia
Get rid of her.
to get rid of her.
Quite rightfully so, too. It's always been the same.
Not to get rid of her, just to control her.
Yeah. Straighten her out.
Straighten
Yeah.
her out.
Yes.
But I was never a boarder. I was the only one that wasn't. I was the nicest of the lot.
Yeah.
So they kept me
Be that
home.
recorded, please.
Yeah.
I mean, that's interesting, isn't it? Fancy living in Cottesloe, about half a mile from Iona, and sending Berna to New Norcia,
Yeah.
amongst all the abos.
Yeah.
Or even boarding Berna at Iona.
Yes.
Yeah,
as
or
well,
boarding,
yes.
yeah, Grace at
Yes.
Iona.
She boarded Grace at Iona.
Yeah.
Why did she board?
Yes.
And here she was a widow. Did it not cost anything to board in those days?
Well, I have no idea. But I know they both boarded.
Maybe the nuns were not charging anything.
And
Eh?
Berna was a scallywag. Who's this one?
Yeah.
And when she used to go out playing of Saturday afternoon,
Yeah,
and I'd have to go and find her if she was late. One day I went down to find her because we were going out, and she'd been on a merry-go-round, and the merry-go-round had hit the centre post and squashed her hand.
Where was this? Down at Cottesloe? At Cottesloe or?
No, at Subiaco.
Oh, we're at Subiaco.
She was
Right.
born in Subiaco.
Yeah. Where was the
And
merry-go-round?
her hand was as big as a football,
Mm.
and I had to take her to the doctor.
Where was the doctor?
The doctor was in Hay Street, West Perth,
Yeah.
and he had to slit the palm like that because it was just nothing but blood up like that, and the blood hit the ceiling.
Was it?
Yeah,
I bet you hit the floor.
I don't think I did. No.
How old was she then?
Oh, she was only about. Oh, my father was alive, so she was only about 7 or 8.
She,
Must-
yeah.
She wasn't 7 or 8.
Couldn't have been 17.
Burner.
Your father died in 1918. How old's Burner? When
Oh
was
no, he
Burner
wasn't
born?
alive. That's right. I had to take her to the doctor.
Yeah. So Burner was born. She was the one born.
She was
at
born
Cottesloe.
in
When
Subiaco
yeah.
Road.
Hey, no, you just said that you were in bed with your mother when she was pregnant.
Yes, at Subiaco Road.
Subiaco Road.
Yes.
So Burner was the first one born at Subiaco. It was
And
the last
Mrs.
one.
McQueen came in and brought the baby into the world.
Did she, Mrs. McQueen?
She was the midnight wife.
Midnight wife.
Midwife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then we got the nurse in, of course, and then she stayed.
yeah.
Mrs. Loveland. She used to live in Cottesloe.
She?
Nurse Loveland. And she brought Clem, Chris and myself into the world.
Yeah.
Then she nursed my mother and Burner was born.
Now, what were your connections with Sir James Connolly in those years after your father had died?
Well, when my father died, the Connollys lived in Kings Park Road, and he was in the government then. He was the colonial secretary in the government,
Yeah.
and they took my grandfather, and he lived with them for a couple of years, and he couldn't stand Auntie, so he came back to live with my mother, and he said my mother was worth, her little finger was worth the whole of Sis's body, and Sis was his
And he was talking about his
daughter.
daughter?
He was talking about his daughter.
Yeah. Why did he dislike
Busy.
her?
Oh, well, they got a bit highfalutin,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
up in the social world. So he
And,
lived with us.
and then when did the Connollys go to England?
The Connollys went in 1917. He was made Agent General.
Yeah.
1917 they left here.
Yeah. So you were 15.
Yeah.
And what did you do then? Who was working in 1917, 18, 19 sort of thing? Where was Clem? Where was he working?
Clem. He went into a bank.
Didn't he become a printer?
Eventually, when he was much older, after he was married, but he was in a bank originally. Yeah. And he took
What
on
bank was that?
printing. I've forgotten which one.
Yeah. And he took up printing then?
Yeah.
And he became a linotype operator
Yeah.
down in
Queen Street.
Queen Street
Mm.
with, what's his name, Mann,
No.
L.B. Mann.
No.
He was there in those days.
Well, I don't know him, but Clem had his own business,
Yeah.
and he took Eva's brother in on the machines, Eva
What was
Bahen's.
Eva's? What was Eva's
Stan, Beard.
beard?
Mm.
Yeah.
But that's years after, you know.
Yeah.
They were quite old. Clem and Eva
And
were
what did
married.
Vin do early?
Vin was with British General Electric.
Oh, that's right. And when did he leave them?
I wouldn't have a clue.
He went to the railways. No, he went to the
oh,
ES
that
West
was,
too.
yes, I don't know where else Vin worked.
Yeah. And Chris.
Chris was
did
with
what?
Mills and Wares. He was a salesman.
Yeah. Salesman.
So, just a salesman, like you. You
Like
remind
me.
me of him. You're the living image
Good
of
looking
him.
chap. Good
No.
looking fellow. And you joined Elders early?
I joined Elder Smiths. I had a lot of jobs before I joined Elder Smiths. I was with the APA Insurance. I was with a Mr. Judge in William Street who was a land agent. I was with J.J. Dewar.
You kept
Now,
getting
what were
fired.
they? Yes, they kept sacking me.
Did they?
So I eventually went to Elder Smiths and
Did
stayed
you get
there.
suggestive to them or something?
No, they got suggestive to me.
Did they really?
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't. Oh, yeah.
So
Well, there was something
then I went
rocky
to
coming
Elder
up,
Smiths, and I stayed there for the rest of my life. And I got a year off and went to England.
And who was the man who was your boss who became the top man in Elder Smiths? Sniffy Giles?
Oh, Giles, Skinny Giles.
Skinny Giles.
Yeah. He is now Sir
Skinny Giles.
Skinny Giles.
I think he's probably, well, I think he became the top man of Elders.
Yes,
in
he
the States.
went to Adelaide,
Yeah.
made general manager there. Of the whole whole of Elvis.
And in those days, what year are we talking about? In your 20s?
Oh, yes.
It's before you were married. Just what was going on in Perth in those days?
What was going on?
Yeah, what was the social life?
Oh.
What did you do?
Well, we went to lots of balls,
The
which
embassy
they don't
exist?
have now. Yeah, the embassy.
Embassy Ballroom in the same place?
Yes, yeah, at the bottom of William Street.
Yeah. Was there Aborigines in the town?
Oh, no.
No,
Never saw Aborigines.
Except in the back lot.
Oh, at that period it was quite civilised, Perth.
We're going to hear about swimming Nicky down the hot pool in the Netherlands.
Oh, yes.
Going down there.
Yeah.
How did you get down to the Netherlands baths?
Netherlands Baths by tram.
Which went to where?
Went along Hay Street,
Yeah.
right down
Stirling Highway?
Rockaby Road,
Oh, yes.
right along there.
And? But
We
were
used
the
to go there
roads...
every Sunday morning.
Did you? And were they the only baths?
Yeah. Oh, the Crawley Baths were built later.
Oh, were they? So the Netherlands baths were there in
Netherlands
in the
Baths
1920s.
were there years before.
Who owned them?
Oh, look, I've no idea. Can't remember.
And was the Netherlands Hotel there?
Yes.
Was it? The university probably wouldn't have been there, would it?
Don't know when the university was built.
Yeah.
No idea.
So you couldn't get through to Fremantle? Well, you could. It was Stirling Highway, a completely made road right through to Fremantle.
Oh, yes. When we... Oh, yes, it was, but not as elaborate as it is now. Trams used to run from Perth to Clermont.
And then where would you go to?
I don't know. Oh,
How did you get from
they
Clermont
used
to
to have...
Cottesloe? For your house?
We used to walk from St George, from Stirling Highway to Cottesloe,
Did you?
Long Forest Street.
When you were living there?
In Subiaco, we'd go by train.
No, stop, no. No, we're in Cottesloe.
Cottesloe.
But
Oh,
we're walking from Stirling Highway to Cottesloe.
You'd walk.
You were born in Cottesloe, weren't you?
Yes.
That's what I say. Okay.
There was no transport from there to Cottesloe.
How would you go to the beach?
Walk. I should have walked, but we were never old enough then when we left Cottesloe.
No, of course you
And
weren't.
when
You
we
were-
went to Subiaco to go to Cottesloe, we'd get on the train at Leederville,
Yeah.
get off at Cottesloe and walk to the beach,
Did you?
which we did a lot.
Is that Cottesloe proper, is it? We're
Cottesloe
talking the
proper.
OBH area.
Not the OBH area, Cottesloe proper.
Right up, oh, of course, up at the main. That was where Adrian Page's father had those.
Shops.
No,
He had
the
something.
change rooms on the beach.
Oh, that's right.
Used to
Yes,
bring
he
them
did.
down by
Yes.
horse,
Yeah.
because he's in that book on
Ah,
Cottesloe.
fancy
Remember
that. Yes.
There.
Yeah.
And that was where your
Yeah.
father mentioned going down with his friends to Cottesloe and taking photographs with that Brownie camera
Oh, that's
of
before.
his friends.
Oh,
in 1897.
Yes, before
He
ever
went down
my
to the beach
mother
with
came
all-
out here.
That's right.
Yeah.
He used to go down to the beach with his friends and he took his
Yeah.
photographs with a Kodak
Yeah. Yeah.
camera
Hmm.
in 1897.
Gosh.
Yeah, they were all wonderful men.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
really like.
Yeah, they were all, some of them were
Yeah.
Catholic chaps too, actually.
Yes.
Really lovely Catholic chaps.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what school did Vin go to?
Then went to Christian Brothers College
Did Clem go there?
in St George's Terrace.
That was down on Adelaide Terrace, corner,
Adelaide
just near
Terrace, yeah.
Adelaide Terrace.
Yes, he went there. Clem went to the Thomas Street State School.
Did he?
Yes, I don't think he went to a college.
Good heavens.
Can't remember him going to
Well,
college.
the Thomas Street State School, that would have been...
That's still there.
Yeah, but that's now modern school.
No,
Well-
the modern school was built after that. The state school's on the corner of Thomas Street and Subiaco Road. And
Oh, of
Roberts
course,
Road.
the little one, yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
See, my father had died by then.
yeah. That's right.
So
Maybe
I
that's
don't
why
suppose
Clem
Mum
went
could
there.
afford to send him to
Yeah.
college.
Yeah. And
But-
Vin, where did he go to?
He went to Christian Brothers College.
So they both went to CBH?
Yeah.
No, Okay, now, you and Grace went to Iona,
Oh yes, I only
Verna
went
went to
I
Iona
only went
and then
to a
was-
little one.
did you?
There, because we shipped it to Subiaco. Then I went to St Joseph's Convent in Subiaco, next to St John of God Hospital.
Oh, right. And did Verna ever go to St Joseph's?
Oh yes, she must have. No, she didn't. She went and Mum put her into boarding school.
That's right, up at...
Yeah, at Iona.
Was she there all
Present
her
day secondary.
time?
Yeah, only when she went to New Norcia. She went and boarded there.
Yeah. So what did Grace do as when in her first job? Where was she?
She was in the government.
Was she?
Yeah, always in the government.
Yeah. And then she met Merv.
Yes.
Did
got
she work
married.
for long, or she?
Oh yes, she was quite old when she got married. I mean, she wasn't 18, 19, 20. I don't know
Yeah,
how old she was.
yeah.
She was quite elderly. You know, for getting married.
20s, late 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Verna, of course, she got married. Where did you get married?
Where did I get married?
Yeah,
I got married in Netherlands
in Netherlands.
in 1930. What?
19th of December.
The 19th of December.
1930.
1933, wasn't it?
33.
33, because I was 31.
You were 31. And how old was Dad?
He was about 35,
35.
a couple of years old.
Yeah. And Grace got married.
In Kalgoorlie.
Grace did.
She went up to the races and married Mervyn up there. I came back married.
And nobody knew.
No. But she'd been going for Mervyn for ages.
And she just got.
She got married up there.
And none of the family attended.
She went up to the races. Mervyn was up there.
Oh,
No.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And was she engaged?
I don't know whether she was engaged or not. She's been going for Mervyn for years.
And what about Verna?
Berna. Oh, she got married during the Second War, didn't she?
I don't know.
Yes. She'd known Bob for a while, but she was very friendly with another bloke. Then she went to England.
Yeah.
And she was very friendly with this chap, and she brought him home pyjamas for a present. Then she met Bob, and they went out together for about 18 months, and then they got married.
Yeah.
I don't know what year, I can't remember.
No. No. And what about Clem?
Clem?
When did he meet Eva and...
Where? Well, during football season, when he started playing football at 17,
Played for Subi.
played for Subi, and then he was the youngest league player here in Western Australia.
When he first started.
Yeah, when he first started.
And who did he play with? He played-
Subiaco,
Yeah, but well, other people were in that era.
Tom Outridge,
Yeah.
Johnny Leonard,
Yeah.
Jack Beasley.
Jack Beasley, is he still alive? He's
he's still alive.
Swan Taxis.
That's right.
Jack Beasley. And what about, what's his name's father? Wait a minute.
They used to call Clem Miss Bahen.
No, Fairy Bahen.
Miss Bahen,
Miss Bahen.
Miss
I thought it
Bahen.
was Fairy
Miss
Bahen.
because she was such a pretty footballer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember the Wimbridges. They used to play for East Perth, the Wimbridge fellows. They were quite ordinary people, very rough. I remember Mrs. Wimbridge hitting Clem with an umbrella as he came off the field.
Yeah? Yeah?
That's a mark. You would get some of that stuff and spray around.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wimbridge is heading, didn't
Yeah, Mrs. Wimbridge. And they used to always call him Miss Bahen.
I think his nickname was also Fairy Bahen.
Oh, well, it could have been
Because he
Bahen.
was
I
such
can always
a,
remember
he was
Miss
very,
Bahen.
very good on his feet.
Yes, he was. He was a very pretty footballer.
Yeah.
And Jack Clark used to play. He was a dentist.
Yeah.
Nice crowd of chaps.
Now, when did you start going out with Dad?
I started going out with him 18 months before I married him.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was he doing at the time?
He was with the same company as he
Queensland
always
Insurance.
with. Queensland Insurance.
Was he? Had always worked with him?
Always.
Yeah. And his first wife had disappeared.
Disappeared.
Disappeared, buzzed off.
Buzzed off, yes.
She ended up as a dancer or something.
I don't know. didn't
She did, yeah. She was a dancer.
She was a barmaid.
She was, yeah.
I married Bill in 1933, and we were married for 18 years, and he died. Left me with 2 rat bags.
2 rat bags. Great. Marvellous children. Marvellous children.
14 and 16
3
year
lovely,
olds.
no, 13.
14 and 16, weren't you?
1951.
51?
We had that argument before with Sean, with John. He hasn't paid me yet either.
Ah.
I was 1951.
That's 30 years ago. Take that off 44, Tony. You were 13.
13, 14, doesn't matter.
Isn't that right?
Yeah, I think I did something.
And there I struggled on for the rest of my life.
Yes. Lived in poverty, abject poverty, hardly being able to afford a brandy.
I didn't.
Until here we are sitting in this
Didn't
luxury
drink brandies then.
of
I
carrying
hated,
you up.
I hated brandy. I used to always drink gin squashes.
Yeah.
Eva talked me into brandy. She always had brandy, so I thought I'd try it.
Yeah?
So that was my downfall.
Oh, God.
No, it wasn't.
Now, tell me about when you went to England. You went to England in the
God, you're going back to
1920s.
100 years earlier.
Yeah, 1920s.
When I went to England.
Yeah. No, you went with your mother.
I went with my mother and my brother
And
Chris.
those photographs were in Ceylon. How did you get to Ceylon?
On the ship, Colombo.
On the way over there or on the way back?
On the way over. Both ways.
Yeah, both ways, I suppose. Got to come back the same way.
Yeah.
Chrissy, get us a...
Oh, Tony, cut it out. You're not that thirsty.
Now, how long...
Soda
What
water.
one, sir? How long did it take you to get to England?
4 weeks on the ship.
What ship did you go on?
Went on the Oriana, was it? I know I came back on the Orford, and it was the maiden trip of the Orford.
The Orford.
Orford, O-R-F-O-R-D.
What was that?
And we stopped
P&O
at the
line
equator
or-
and had champagne.
Did you?
The ship.
It was you, your mother and Vin.
I came home
Chris.
alone. I
Chris.
stayed
Chris.
on. Chris and Mum came home, and I stayed on.
How long did you stay for?
3 months, 12 months altogether.
Did you? And did you work in London?
No, you weren't allowed to work. That was empty dig. I would have liked to.
As a female, you weren't allowed to? Couldn't
No, not living with the Conleys. You couldn't go to work.
Is that right?
Put you down. No, they weren't allowed to work. They didn't work. No.
What did you do while you were over there?
Did all sorts of things. I don't know really. Went up to Hay and stayed with people up there for about a month.
And generally
Herefordshire.
socialised?
Yeah. Oh,
Not
yes.
Herefordshire,
Yeah.
that I thought it was.
Herefordshire.
I thought it was Herefordshire.
Well, I called Herefordshire.
Did you travel whilst you
Not
were
much. Went to France
Yeah.
for 6 weeks.
Now,
When
what-
everybody goes out of London in
Yeah.
August,
Yeah.
we'd go out, and the Conley's house was robbed.
Was it?
Yeah, while we were away. And the only thing that was stolen, the place was an awful mess, was a doll that a chap had brought me from France, a French doll.
That was the
The
only thing stolen?
only thing that was stolen. We had all our
You must have
clothes.
knocked him back and he was pretty sure he thought I'd take a damn French doll back again.
No, I don't know. Here,
Now that was Cadogan Square,
Cadogan
and
Square.
we've established that.
Number 30.
I think it was
Not
number 30.
6.
Whatever it was.
It was 30.
Was it? Whatever the photo was
Yeah.
I got now. Yeah, Cadogan Square. And let's talk about entertainment in Perth in your 20s. What was on in Perth in the 20s?
Well, there were lots of theatres. His
Well-
Majesty's Theatre was the main theatre, and that place where we used to dance for balls. And you always went in long frocks to His Majesty's Theatre, which they don't do now. They'll go in any old thing,
Yeah.
which was rather nice.
Nice.
You always got dressed up. You couldn't go in a day frock.
Yeah.
You always went in long frocks.
It was Her Majesty's. No, it would have been His Majesty's.
His Majesty's in those
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where else did you
Social
go?
life was lovely, different from nowadays when they sit around and listen to a radio,
A tape recorder.
tape recorders and things like that.
And what other theatres were there? Was there only His Majesty's?
His Majesty's. I think that was about the only theatre that you really went to. All the picture theatres were going, the Palladium and West Pictures in Subiaco, which we used to go to.
West Pictures, where were
West's, that's now called the Regal Theatre.
they? Oh, yes. And they had the outdoors theatres.
Yeah,
there.
oh
I remember
yes.
going to them.
Claremont they had.
Claremont
The
outdoors.
outdoor one.
That's right, Netherlands.
That was nice. The Cottesloe one.
Cottesloe, yeah.
Now they've all gone.
Yeah, they have too.
Yeah.
Over there in the 50s too.
We used to go to the gardens up in Rockaby Road every Sunday afternoon to a band concert. It was a nice social Sunday afternoon.
Do you remember the band concerts we had up in the Rose Gardens too? When we were kids? Yes.
Really?
The Rose Gardens in Netherlands. I can remember
No.
going to the band concerts in...
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember
near the
them.
Overtons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't remember.
Like, yes.
Yeah.
And,
Fancy that.
Wigs and Nick and Bob. And, oh,
Good
yes.
Lord.
They turned them on for a while there. They didn't last long.
No. No, the open air garden theatre at Netherlands was nice when we used to go in the...
Yeah, that's right. Oh, the Rose
With John
Gardens
Gilbert.
Johnny
Gilbert used to always go down on his own.
Yeah.
Remember during the war,
That's
when
right.
it was a blackout?
We used to pick him up in the
He'd
car.
go down there on his own. He was only...
Which means he would have been 7 or 8.
Yeah,
Not even that.
tiny
probably.
kid.
No, they used to have those band concerts on a Sunday
I can't
afternoon.
remember those.
Yeah, and it must have been when I was 10. Goes back 30 years.
I probably wasn't interested in those.
Well, you used to take us.
Did I? It's not awful.
Yeah.
And then would you like to come to the murder?
Oh, we'll get on to the murder later on. Mrs. Allen was involved
Time
in
you
the
went
murder.
away. Time you stopped, Tony.
Yeah, I know, it's interesting.
That's a lot of rot.
Oh, all right, we'll talk very briefly about the murder because Christine wants to hear about it.
Oh, does she?
64. The year is 1964. Here we are in Netherlands, Western Australia. All right, now the murder.
Well,
About what month of the year was it?
it was January, the long weekend,
That's right. Yeah, Pauline
and I
staying
had
with
my niece staying with me from Penang, Pauline Fenton, who was.
Pauline de Graaf.
And I had 2 boys, Scott McWilliam and Keith Anderson. They were both at university. And I had John Sturkey staying for the weekend, and he elected to sleep on the back veranda because he preferred it. It was a hot night. And at early hours of the morning, Pauline heard this boy on the back veranda, John Sturkey, making a horrible noise. So she eventually got up and thought she must make him turn over, he's dreaming. When she went out, she found that there was something worse wrong with him, so she got Keith to come out because he was doing medicine. And Keith just said, ring an ambulance, he's been shot. And Pauline rang the ambulance because there was blood all over the floor.
Had you got up by this time?
Yes, I got it when I heard her on the phone. And the police said, lock all your doors, stay inside. There's been a murder in Louise Street. And so I said, and turn off all your lights. So I said to Pauline, I'm not turning off all the lights. I'm going to keep flicking the front veranda lights on anytime I see a light coming, so the ambulance wouldn't pass. And then they took John Sturkey away, and he died about 2 hours later, and he'd been shot through the head. And nobody was allowed to go onto our back veranda until the police had taken all the fingerprints and everything. We weren't even allowed to go to the toilet, so we had to go to Wicks's to the toilet. Wicks was away in Queensland,
Was she at the time?
so it was only Nick and Peter home. So we had to go across there to the toilet whenever we went. And then I was allowed to go to Mass, which was a Sunday morning, They took Pauline away, the police did. There were police cars all down Louise Street.
Right.
And then I went to Mass, and I told Monsignor Moss, as I was going in, what had happened. What was going on?
Probably else.
No, you
Oh,
were
we were
married.
That's right. I remember
Yeah.
John marching down the passageway of our house in Mount Clement, and Pam and I were still in bed.
Oh,
in
really?
bed.
Is that how you knew?
And he came marching down, and boom, crashed open through the front door, because we didn't know, in those days nobody locked their doors.
No, well, my doors
And,
weren't locked.
all he said was, John's been murdered.
Yeah.
What? What are you talking about? John's been murdered. What are you talking about? John's dead, he's been murdered. And then we all lit out, and off we went.
That
The
was
next
terrible.
few nights living at your house with a gun.
Yeah.
No, so she went along at the time.
So we all slept together after that.
Night.
What's his name?
In your room.
In my
Keith,
room.
You and I and
We
Pauline.
brought Scott into
And I
my
had
room.
that unlicensed.
Oh, you brought that up and I
Rifle.
wouldn't keep it. I didn't like rifles round the
And
place.
there was that many police around. Didn't matter.
And Scott nearly hit you on the head when you came one night with his golf club.
Did
He always carried the golf club because he was petrified.
Do
So
you remember that
Pauline
you
and
you
I-
heard this fellow around the place several times before?
Oh, yes. Well, he'd been to our place before because Scott had had money taken off his dressing table. He had in a beer mug, £8 it was. And when we came home from hockey, we never locked any doors. The money was gone. So he knew every stick of furniture in my place and practically every place in Nedlands. He'd done petty thieving for years. Anyhow, they eventually caught him. 6 months later. 6 months, wasn't it?
Or at
Little
least-
girl
at
was
least.
murdered 6 months after.
That was the McLeod's
Yeah.
daughter next door, who lived next door to
No,
us now.
yes, that was the McLeod's daughter.
We moved into,
Yes.
Pam and Tony moved into this house
Yes.
in 1968, and our next door neighbours were the McLeods, who introduced themselves, and they were the mother and father of the last person killed by Eric Edgar Cook,
Yeah.
who shot her through a window, and they moved to Karrinyup to get away from it all. And when we moved in here and discussed it all, we found out we had
Lived next door to one another. Wasn't it
Yeah.
funny?
Yeah. No, these people.
The McLeods shipped it here. It's extraordinary. Anyhow, he was eventually caught, thank goodness. And I passed the block of land where he was caught every time I go over to Mount Pleasant because I have to
Yeah.
go to a bridge over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Mount Pleasant.
Good God.